What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Engage Your Destiny, a ministry that exists to engage with military veterans and their families so we can lead you into your destiny. Now, we've been in this amazing series of asking great questions, and as we've been talking about Jesus and who he was and what he did, we really want to get to the heart of how can we trust what Jesus said. Jesus made a pretty bold claim, man. He said, "I am the way, I'm the truth, and I'm the life, that no man can come into a relationship with God, can come to the Father, except through me." And so those are things that very few people have said. The other ones were crazies. They really didn't start any movements, but Jesus's movement changed the world. And so that's why we got to take a hard look at this thing. And I want to really share with you some of the things that I learned when I went through a really dark time in my life of questioning my faith. I'd come back from combat. I had gone through a lot of PTSD, and I was on the verge of atheism, man. I was like, man, if God, if you're good and you love me and you're real, then why have I gone through such immense suffering like this? And why is my life falling apart? And it was in that time that I was able to experience and find some of the greatest truths that have been an anchor in my life in the most tragic times. Now, I want to talk to you first about the Gospels. All four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were written within the lifetime of the people who followed Jesus. You have Matthew, Mark, and John, who were all disciples of Jesus, followed him for the 3 years of his ministry, and each one of them wrote their first-hand accounts within the lifetime of their lives before each one of them were brutally murdered for their faith. And so those are first-hand accounts, again, written within the lifetime of the people who saw Jesus do what he did. And so in all of antiquity, the closest writings that we have is Julius Caesar, and the copies that we have of his writings are over 300 years after he died. So those are copies and not even first-hand accounts written by the people who saw him do what he did and say what he said. And so if we look at this entire broad spectrum of all of the history of the world, there is absolutely no one who is more historically accurate based on what they said than Jesus Christ. And so along with that truth, you have Matthew, Mark, and John, who were the guys who followed Jesus and watched him do what he did. But then we also have Luke. And Luke is this guy that was legitimately hired by the Roman government to investigate everything Jesus did, because this dude, he started a movement. He turned the world upside down, and they wanted to get to the bottom of what was actually happening and how it was taking place. And so Luke then spent several years interviewing every single person that followed Jesus, that walked with him, his family, his friends, his disciples, everybody, and that's how we have the Gospel of Luke. And so that gospel, to me, is one of the greatest, freaking right-hand crosses that's going to make an impact in this whole case for Christ, in that Luke was not trying to, make an argument that Jesus is God or try to, prove anything. He was trying to get to the bottom and investigate what was taking place and how this movement began. Now, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of those stories and all of those books have been compiled, and we actually have those first-hand records in Israel, which I have looked at and I have seen, that were written within the lifetime of Christ. And so if you truly take a look at these four Gospels, again, there is absolutely no one in the history of the world whose words are more valid than Jesus Christ. Now, lastly, every single follower, every single person that was a disciple of Jesus that followed him after his death, every one of them that followed Jesus up until and after his death was brutally murdered for their faith. They were stoned to death. They were hung upside down. Their heads were chopped off. They had horses that ripped all their limbs off. They went through extreme torture and extreme death, and every single one of them went to their grave confessing and saying and never denying that Jesus Christ is God, that he did everything that he said he did, that everything that we wrote down is 100% the truth. And I'll tell you what, man, people will die for something that they believe to be true, but they will not die for something that they know to be false. These people were there, they saw it, they wrote it down, it's been preserved through all of antiquity into modern day, and they were absolutely brutally bludgeoned and murdered for what they saw, what they stood for, and what they believed. In the darkest moments of my faith, when I have truly wrestled with if God is real or not, there is one thing that I have not been able to let go of, and that is that logically, I cannot deny that Jesus Christ walked the face of this earth and that he said what he said. And if he said those things, and he did what he said he did, then there's no doubt in my mind that he is the Son of God, that he rose from the dead, and that he is the only way to spend eternity in heaven with God. So that's what I want to encourage and strengthen you with today as you're growing in your faith and you're solidifying how you are going to follow God and what he's calling you to do to engage your destiny. Thanks so much, you guys. Please like and subscribe to this video, and we can't wait to see you again soon.